I'm Autumn Bensett, founder of the Bossy Babe brand, fitness coach, and serial entrepreneur turned intuitive life and business coach. The Wealthy Babe podcast is for the ambitious, courageous, and spiritually charged up woman in network marketing, craving wealth not only in her bank account, but in every aspect of her life. Get plugged in here each week for authentic and unfiltered conversations from myself and industry leaders who are going to support you and give you all the juicy behind the scenes and real talk around business, spirituality, strong points of view, and doing shit differently. This is a safe space to come undone, be heard, and be given permission to rewrite your own damn rules. So here we go. What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Wealthy Babe podcast. I'm really excited because one of my favorite humans ever, my best friend.
Hi, guys.
She's like, hi, I'm not even going to wait to be introduced. I'm here. This is me. I'm Olivia. We are back, you guys. We are back because we're going to riff on this topic with you, and for you. I'm really excited. We were kind of going back and forth about some different topics to talk about and some things that were on our heart. And we're like, hey, we need to jam out on this podcast about this topic. So I know that you guys have been getting a lot of questions in your inboxes, and we've been getting questions from you in our inboxes about how to handle brain pickers and inbox pickers, and we'll even call her Betty. We'll put a name on her, Betty the brain picker. So we're gonna.
It sounds like I just keep thinking like pimple popper, but it's the brain picker. It's different.
It's kind of the same thing though.
Gross.
It's kind of like they're like kind of like pimples.
Oh! I'm just picturing like squeezing in like the whitehead, and now I'm like grossed out.
I know. Oh, I know. Well, good morning, you guys. Hopefully you're enjoying that visual.
Hi, Betty.
So thank you anyways, Olivia, for coming on to riff with me on this topic. Oh my goodness, you guys. So you probably know who Olivia is at this point, but if you don't, she's a certified life and business coach, and she's the host of the Soul in the Raw podcast. There is some juicy shit going down there on October 1st, so make sure you guys go. Oh my goodness. You go and subscribe. I can't talk. Go subscribe and just make sure you stay tuned, because whether you're on social media or you're on their podcast, they're keeping you updated with everything going on. So it's super exciting. And if you haven't already, make sure you go check out episode 4, where she's sharing more about her story. And we talked all on sex, marriage, and how you receive pleasure is how you also receive success in business. So just make sure if you haven't heard that first episode, you go back and you listen to it. I mean, you can listen to this one first. It's okay. But make sure
they're not totally correlated. No. We're not going to talk about sex, most likely. We're going to talk about Betty.
Most likely. Pimples and Betty. That's what we're going to talk about. But for real, we've been getting a lot of inbox messages, whether it's from our clients or just from just people that we've been working with, and they're saying where's the boundary? Like, what do I do with women and with friends and with people that are asking me for advice and for questions in my area of expertise, like in the things that I actually coach on, the things that I teach on, the things that I actually make money from, whether it's a product or it's a service that you provide. What do I do? Like what do I do with this, when this is happening? What do I do when they're sending me messages? How do I navigate this? And are they the right people that I'm supposed to be serving? So we wanted to come on here and talk with you guys, because if we hear that this is a problem and we hear this is something that you guys are struggling with, we want to help you. We want to guide you through it. We want to address it. And so we're really excited to be talking about this today, because it's something that both, Olivia and I have been dealing with for probably 4 years in the online space. And at the beginning, and probably for the first few years, we were very much like, we dug into it. We accepted it. We had no boundaries with this. And it left us very depleted, very burnt out, very underappreciated, and ultimately very broke. And so, very broke at the end of the day.
I think because too, you have this idea, especially in the network marketing space, which we both came from, of overserve, overgive, like give, which it's true. I mean, to grow a successful business, you need to give and you need to add value and you need to serve people. But when they're coming to your inbox constantly questioning, and they're having you give them advice, and there's people that are like sharing their entire story in your inbox, and it becomes this coaching session of sorts, that takes you out of this expertise space and puts you more in that friend space. And friends don't pay friends to be their friend. They pay coaches to take them to a next level. So I just remember feeling like, oh, eventually this person's going to sign on with me if I start however many conversations I want to, and, you know, be friends with all of these people and have everyone asking me all these questions and like coaching them in my inbox, when I'm also coaching on Facebook and Instagram and a podcast and a YouTube channel and all of these other areas as well. And there's only so much of us to go around. So it did lead to depletion and burnout and almost a little bit, which I hate to even say it, but it's true, a little bit of resentment. And this is what I love to do. I love to coach. But when you're so broke that you can't even put food on the table, and you're coaching all day long, you're doing what you love, but you aren't being sustained and taken care of in your real life, it does lead to a little bit of resentment, even when you love what you do.
Oh, 100%. So let's start the conversation on this a little bit. Like, why do you feel this happens? Why do you feel that people just like end up in your inbox, they're picking your brain, they're asking all the questions, and they think that that's okay? Why do we think that this
is a good question? Yeah, I know we're going to riff on this super conversationally, but I guess to start it off, I think you're allowing yourself to be available for it by the verbiage that you're using. I know for a long time I was, you know, using words like, hey, sister, and like, you know, we're in this together, and like we're linking arms, and we're going on this journey together. And while it's true, while I do link arms with my clients, and we do go through things together, there is still this space of expertise that you have to stand in of, you know, your shit, you've been where they are, but you're on the other side. So you're going to help them get through versus like going through the trenches with them where you guys are like in this same space. So for me, a lot of the verbiage I was using was very much so putting us on this friend level and not having any sort of expertise. So people thought like, oh my God, I can just go to her inbox and ask her questions all day long because we're friends. So like, that's okay. And it wasn't because they were doing anything wrong. I had become available for that. I had taken down that boundary, and I had made it okay by the words I was using, by saying in my live videos, like, hey guys, like feel free to message me if you need me. You know where to find me anytime. Like, I'm here for you. I've got your back, and all of those things. So the first thing I had to do was clean up my verbiage and really start to figure out, where do I need to establish expertise while still being this person's, you know, friend, and having like that friend connection with them, but being the expertise where like, oh, I'm going to respect her time, and I'm going to make sure that I'm, you know, showing up to her how I'd want her to show up for me. So for me, verbiage was huge. I was available for it, and I was allowing it, and I wasn't shutting it down. I was just expecting people to get it, but I wasn't honoring my own boundaries. Does that make sense? I was like, just 100%. Letting people treat me that way versus standing up and saying like, this isn't okay.
Yeah. Like, and I even wrote some things down with this because I think that this is really important to recognize, is that we can't control other people, right? So we can't always control like who's going to send us a message and pick our brains. However, we can control our boundaries, what we're available for, and what we attract. And so I think, like you said, with your verbiage, sometimes it can come down to, and I'll notice this with, you know, some of my, whether they're my clients or they're people that I start working with in a program, or maybe it's just people on my social media that I'm scrolling through, and I actually, you know, now I'm very receptive to seeing what's working and what's not working. And when you have things like DM me to continue the conversation, or DM me with your questions, and you're actually verbally saying that stuff in your posts, that is opening and welcoming people in. So I think, again, it's like the verbiage, but I think the more that you answer these messages as well, and the more that you feel this obligation, you answer them and you give them that time and that space, what ultimately happens is you're telling the universe like, hey, I'm available for this. I want to serve in this way. And so the universe is like, hey, Betty, sure, I'll give you more of this. I'll give you more of these people because you're liking it, you're enjoying it, you're available for this. And so we start to attract in more of that because that's what we're spending our time on. So yeah, I think, is there anything else that you had to kind of
I think that make it really clear in your boundaries. Like, what are you available for? I remember asking my coach when I started working with her, like, oh my God, how come you don't get all these people in your inbox that just want to pick your brain? And she was like, because I'm not available for it. Like, she has a very strong energetic boundary of like, what am I available for? What am I not available for? And she puts that out there. And so like you said, that whole attraction piece, she's not attracting it because she literally doesn't have any space for it. And she doesn't even honor it. She doesn't even, what's the word I'm looking for? She doesn't even, I want to say like fancy it, but she doesn't
entertain it.
Entertain it. That's the word. Yes. See, this is why it's so nice having someone on here with you. But she doesn't even entertain it. So if she has someone pick her brain, like that just wants to reach out to pick her brain, she might send them something about a coaching consult if this person is her ideal client. Sorry if you can hear the freaking leaf blower outside of my window.
I thought it was kind of music, but
no, it's a freaking leaf blower. The landscapers are here, and it's so obnoxious. And it's not my landscapers; it's my apartment's landscaper. Just clear that up. But she basically will either, if they are her ideal client, and we'll talk about this later, like she'll have a conversation, but she makes it very clear that this is reserved access for her one-on-one clients. But she'll also either send them somewhere else or to a consult, which I know we're going to get to. But she also sometimes just simply deletes the message and doesn't even respond to it because she's just not available for it. And if you entertain it, the more you entertain it, the more you act like it's okay, the more that you continue to answer one last question thinking that, oh, this will like be enough and then they're going to hire me. It's just opening the door and opening the door and opening the door for more and more and more of that, and doesn't give them that kind of confidence and that nudge and that kick in the ass a little bit of take the next step. Like it's time to invest and go to the next level if you're having all of these questions.
Well, because essentially it's, and this is actually leading really great into like where we were going to go next with this, but I think essentially it's giving them those pings that they're looking for. And we've talked about this in the past. Is like they're looking for that attention. They're looking for someone to care. They're looking for somebody just to say, I get you and I feel you and I understand you. And when you give those responses, they have no reason to pay for it because they're getting it for free, right? Yeah. So this is tying perfectly into like my next, what wasn't really necessarily my next question, but kind of where I wanted to go with it is how do we handle them? And so I think essentially we kind of talked about boundaries was really big. You touched on consultations. We touched on some other resources. We touched on briefly like just ignoring them. So maybe let's dive into those a little deeper.
Yeah, I think so. First thing, boundaries. Literally write down on a piece of paper what you are and are not available for. And sometimes it does take, like I had a friend, Shannon the other day, Autumn and I's friend Shannon. Obviously I need food. She posted like basically like if you're just going to message me asking me to look at all of your projects for free, like we're not meant to work together because people that I'm ready to work with are driven, ambitious, and ready to take that next step. And so she was getting so many of those messages, she had to publicly declare her boundary. But sometimes it doesn't take that full force, like, boundary publicly, but it takes more of energetically. So if I get a lot of those questions, and I start seeing a lot of people are brain picking me, I'm like, okay, something is off in my energy here. Something is off in my verbiage. Something is off because it's not them. Betty is not doing anything wrong. Betty is being entertained. Betty is getting what she's looking for. So it's something that I am having that's off with me. So it's like, how can I reestablish my energy, my boundaries, and the way that I'm speaking to people so that I'm not even getting as many of these messages. And now I really don't get very many. And when I do, I go to the next steps, which I know you're going to talk about.
Yeah. So next steps is perfect way to go into that because you do have to have this boundary. You do. And I would say I probably don't really get many of those either nowadays.
I used to. Oh my God.
The odd one, the odd one, they'll kind of filter in. Yeah. But it's when it's getting entertained. And that's very interesting that you touched on that because I did have one girl that I was kind of chatting about a program with, for example, and maybe there was a little bit too much entertaining there because then it was, well, I did this test. How can I apply this into my branding? Oh, I did this. Like, this is amazing. And she was kind of always updating me with the things that were going on with her as if I was coaching her. And I had to make it very clear, like, I'm not coaching you.
Right.
I'm not your coach because this is reserved for my one-on-one clients. And so that is that type of conversation that you do have to have when you're moving forward. If it's getting to the point where it's excessive or you just don't even want to entertain it at all, you do have to straight up, this comes with confidence. You have to be very confident in what you're offering. You have to be confident in your area of expertise. You have to be confident in receiving money for your worth. And you have to know that if you do have one-on-one clients or you are serving in group programs and you are doing these things where you do offer a service, there are people who are already paying for your time, whether that's at low levels or high levels. Like people are paying for your time and your energy and for the advice that you would be giving out. So you have to honor and respect them to some degree too. And you have to make sure, right? Like you're not over giving to these other people because then why are these other ones paying for it? Like that doesn't feel good.
So true. And you have to think too, like, who cares if they think you're a bitch, right? Because I think sometimes we have this like, oh, well, I don't want to be a bitch or I don't want them to think I'm a bitch. But at the end of the day, like their perception's not your responsibility. If they're going to think that this makes you a bitch, they're the kind of person that is glued to their inbox, not making money a lot of the time. So when you can give them permission by you standing up and saying, you know what, like I would love to answer these questions and I have some great resources for you I can send you. But if you are wanting to go to this next level and you're really wanting this personalized attention, I do reserve that for my one-on-one clients. I would love to get on a consultation with you, which we're going to talk about in a second. But I think you then give them permission to do the exact same thing in their business and take control of their life back. And they are no longer glued to their inbox. Like I think one of the best testimonials you and I get a lot of the time, Autumn, is from clients that say like, I finally am able to have my life back and my marriage back and my sex life back and me back because I'm not glued to an inbox, just like trying to get a client out of the millions of people that I'm coaching for free every day.
Oh, 100%. I had this story that was coming up for me, and it's a little bit different from the inbox thing. So maybe we're straying a little bit here, but we'll come right back with the boundaries and, you know, with the consultations and how we move through this. But it comes down to, like, again, knowing your worth, especially around money. One of my nail girl, actually, my nail girl is, I actually spent about like 6 hours with her getting stuff done a couple weekends ago. And a big chunk of the time she was talking to me about how she had been attracting in all these people who were stealing stuff from her, and they were not valuing her time, and they were literally taking money off her desk after a service was paid for. They were taking nail polish off her wall, or they were coming in for a service and then saying they couldn't afford it, or having people come in and be like, well, I actually don't work, so I can pay you $10. And she's like, pardon me? Like, this isn't like bartering. This isn't like, this is what my service costs. And she would take it because people assumed that she didn't understand, because she's a wonderful woman from Vietnam, but they would assume that she didn't understand what was going on. And so I had this big conversation with her about her worth and money, because she was telling me how she has a 2.5-year-old daughter, and she's like, I'm exhausted, I'm depleted, I have no time with her, I'm working literally 24 hours a day. Like, she works another job, then she's coming home all night, and she's working till 9 p.m. at night. She's working on Saturday, Sunday from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. at night, and she doesn't take breaks, she doesn't eat, and she's exhausted. And so I had a big conversation with her about raising her prices, and for 6 months, this happened. We started having a conversation 6 months ago, and about raising your prices and having boundaries and declaring what you're worth and standing really strong in this, and where she comes from, this isn't how you do things. And so she was very worried about, well, people still value me. Are they still going to be around? Are they going to run away? Are they going to leave? Are they going to be upset? Are they going to be angry with me if I declare this? And so I actually seen her yesterday for my baby shower, and I said, so how did it go? Because after that service, after that day that I spent 6 hours talking to her about this, I raised all her prices for her, and I said, I'm going to be the first person who pays you these new prices, and I want to show you that you're worth this and that you can make money at this level. And it gave her the confidence to move forward with them. And then she actually did implement them. And then yesterday I followed up with her after the baby shower, and I was like, so how are things going? She had the biggest smile on her face. It was such an incredible moment. She had the biggest smile on her face, and I have chills. And she's like, 80% of people all said, I have a business. I totally understand. I get this. They're paying over and beyond. She said 20% were like, yep, I'm going to go elsewhere. And she goes, I'm okay with it now. She goes, you were right. Like, I have more time. I'm not as exhausted. I have time with my daughter. And that was like the coolest moment for me to be able to say, see, like, we are worth so much more, and we do not allow it. So this is a little bit different because it was an in-person business versus, online where you're in inboxes and stuff. But I think it goes to show that we have to claim our worth as our expertise, and we have to be okay with people, walking away. We have to be okay with people saying no. We have to be okay with people not getting it. And that has to be fine. But for if you are getting people that are online and they're in your inbox and they're like, oh, I want your services, I want your products, and they're wanting to pick your brain about it, hands down for me, Olivia really nailed it there, is like the very first thing that I always do is I let them know I book a consultation. This is what we do. We get to experience this hour together. We get to see what it's going to be like to work together. You can ask me whatever it is that you want. You can pick my brain in this session if that's what you want. But if you want to do that, this is the investment, this is the price, and then we'll book it in, and then I will give you my time and my energy. And that's a boundary that I have had to set up for myself. And that was actually really hard. And maybe you can attest to that, Olivia, a little bit, but that first time that I actually set up a consultation and I had to follow through on that, and I decided to, I was shaking in my boots. It was so difficult because I had never received money in that way before. And It was so difficult. But then, and I even remember, I think a couple of the first ones, I didn't end up doing it. And I was like,
and I yelled at you.
Yeah, you did.
I literally did, because she was like, so I'm thinking these couple, like, I mean, maybe I'll like just do a couple more for free and then I'll charge. I said, no. I was like, dude. And it's so true, because you were like, you're right. And sometimes it does take, like, this is why business besties are so important, because she's called me out on plenty of things. But it's so important to have someone that will hold you to that higher regard and say, no, like, we talked about this. Like, do not fall back on your boundaries, because it's easy to do. We're human, and you're a giver, like an over giver with this like beautiful soul and this beautiful heart of just wanting to serve people, which I love about you. And it's a beautiful strength, but that strength that a lot of us coaches have as sensitive empaths of people who feel so deeply and love so hard, we can get walked all over sometimes, and we have to stand up for ourselves, because it actually allows us, like you said with your nail girl, allows us to show up stronger in other ways. So
100%.
I totally agree. Like, charging for consults was terrifying, because we had done it for free for years. And I noticed, though, my close rate when I started charging for consults, my close rate and my like actual people that I sign on is so much insanely higher than when it was all these free consults that I would get on all day, every day. And I was always booked with consults, but I wasn't making any money, because people were like, oh my God, I feel so much better. Thanks. I'll book another one next month. And I'm like,
I mean, I'm so glad you said that, because I would say my close rate now is probably 90 to 100%.
Oh my God,
like
100%. Yeah.
But beforehand, nobody.
Yeah, it was like 30. It was like 30%, or like not even like 10%. And I had them all the time, and I was exhausted. But I was just holding on to this little hope of like one day. And I'm not saying you don't do stuff for free. Like, dear God, we spend a lot of time doing free stuff. We post on Facebook, we post on Instagrams, we go live on Facebook, we do Instagram stories, we both have a podcast, we show up on YouTube. Like, there's a million ways that you could pick our brains for free just by scouring our content for hours and hours and hours. And you could get all your questions answered. There's freaking mother Google if you really want to get more answers. But the reason you hire a coach isn't to pick someone's brain necessarily. It's to be held accountable, to have a sounding board, to step into next level energy by that coach holding space for you. And by having someone, yes, you can ask questions to, but ultimately you're like, I'm all in, and you show up to play full out in such a different way. So if you're not charging for your time when you're meeting with someone like that, like, are they stepping into that next level? Like, the way I showed up to a consult when I paid for my first consult ever, totally different space than when I paid. It was like free, and I was like driving and I was doing something else, and I was half in and half out. But when I paid my most recent coach 6 months ago for a consult, I showed up, I was like prepared. I had like notes, I was in it, and I was so focused, and I got way more out of it.
100%. The thing that I wanted to touch on there is, I'm just going to side note that as we're recording this, it's 1:11.
Hi.
Hi.
We see you, angels.
We see you. We hear you.
The angels love paid consults.
They love paid consults. They love it. So do it. But I recognize quite a little while ago here is that I showed love in leniency. And right, like I was like, I love you, so I'm going to be lenient. I'm going to give you extra time. I'm going to do things for free. I'm going to overgive. And it was just like leniency. And everything started shifting with my clients, with results, with my business, with income. When I dropped the leniency and I dropped that form of love, it's like, it's not that I'm not here to give. It's not that I'm not here to serve. It's not that I'm not going to go over and beyond for you. Yep. I'm going to love you so fucking hard that you can't even handle it. But you know, like I love my clients. I'm obsessed with them. I give them all of the love. I give them everything. However, I recognize that that's not necessarily what they need. Leniency is not what they need. That's not how they're going to see success. And if you really want to love them, you need to hold them to a higher standard. And so it's hard for us. Like, it's not easy, but you got to do it.
Yeah. And there's like another coach out there that will give them that leniency, but maybe you're the coach that's going to be the one that gets them to go all the way in and take scary leaps. That's going to take them to the next level.
Well, and side note is I was actually in a Facebook group, and there was a lot of women asking about, like, do you do paid consults? Do you just do consults? Like, what's your like, do people show up for them? And they kind of were riffing back and forth on it. And I just shared on my, I think I'm not even kidding. I think 90 to 95% of the women that were on there say I do all free consultations. I always post my prices for my packages on my websites everywhere. I'm not secretive about that whatsoever. Mm-hmm. And I was like the little duckling in there. I don't even, what is it? Is it the black duckling, or what is that?
What are you talking about?
I'm trying to like say like I'm standing, like I'm different. Like
Oh, the black sheep.
Yes.
That's the new thing of the Wealthy Babe podcast, you guys. We are the black ducklings, okay? Stand strong in that, you pretty duckling, you.
Oh, shit. Oh, my goodness. This is, okay. Thank you for hanging out with us and all the black ducklings. But I was like the black sheep on there, and I was like, nope, I actually never share about where, like, I never share my prices. I never share my packages. I never do any of this. And yes, I charge for consults. And I had all of these women commenting underneath being like, oh my goodness, this is genius. Oh my goodness, I never recognized it. I never did this. I never know. And I explained very deeply the reason why is because I need to know who you are. I need to know how I can serve you. I need to know if I can serve you. Yeah. And I have different levels of packages. So I need to know which one fits you. I want to establish a relationship with you before I'm going to go and add prices all over the place. And I know this is kind of taking a turn for what we're talking about, but it's important to have these boundaries and to know these things, because for me, I wouldn't have if I seen my coach's prices before I had hired her, I would have talked myself out of it before I even seen the value and the connection and our vibe and how we felt together on that call, and knowing and trusting in my gut and my soul that it was everything that I needed. And so I shared with them, I also do paid consultations. And they're like, oh my gosh, you do paid consultations? Like, this sounds crazy. And they honestly were blown away. I'm like, yeah, girl, like I do. And they're like, I love this so much. And I said, the thing is you're giving power to these other women to do the same thing. You're giving them power to show up. Beforehand, I would sign on I'm offering 5 free consultations this week. I'd book them out. People weren't showing up. They weren't invested. They were coming distracted, and I wasn't closing the sales. And they were not understanding that in the long run, when you actually are going to share a high level ticket package, they're going to be like, I'm confused, but this was free. So how can I go from free to high ticket? That doesn't make sense to me. I didn't have to pay for this. Why do I have to pay for your coaching then? So it's such a disconnect.
It's so true. I know if someone won't pay me $99 to get on the phone for 1 hour for a pick your brain session / coaching session / learning more about if we're a good fit, they're not going to pay my one-on-one high level prices. And so it's not that I don't love them. It's just that it doesn't make sense for us both. And so, besides paid consults, because we know that's not for everyone. And both of us did free consults. We tried it. And then we were like, you know what? This sucks. I don't like this. So start somewhere, start free if you want to do that for a while. See if that works for you. It works for other coaches out there sometimes. But we're also giving you permission to, if you want to get paid for them, you can do that. I have a client who's starting with 30 minutes for $33. That feels really good for her. Whatever feels good for you. Just make sure if they're paying you, it's not just you getting on the phone and talking about yourself the whole time. It truly is a coaching session. So when we get on coaching consults, we don't really bring up our coaching package till the very end, because the whole point of it is to help them see what coaching with you is like, and feeling seen and heard and understood and validated and supported. And then almost you helping them have that first breakthrough moment, that first aha, that first oh, I've never thought about it that way, or oh, that's really smart, or oh, that's a great action step I can take next. So even if they don't hire you, they're walking away with something where they're like, damn, that was so worth my $100 or whatever and more. Yes. And then from there, then at the end, if you do feel like you're a good fit, I don't always do this. It just depends on if our energies are a good fit, and you can tell intuitively. That's when I say okay, it's a part of the call now where I'm going to ask you, do you want to move forward with coaching? Are you ready to go all in with me? Or are you wanting to take what you learned here today and move forward with that on your own? And that's when they say oh my God, tell me more. And then we go into it. So I think paid consults are great, free to start if you want, but if you're ready to go all in with it, here's your passing the baton. Give yourself the permission to take up space and to be seen and heard there, and be the expert.
Yeah. And I always say it time and time again, there is so much power in the transaction. You give people the power to say yes to themselves. And I think that's the greatest gift. And I think that's the greatest form of love. And it's hard to do sometimes at first, because we struggle with receiving love or receiving money. But when you can get on that level of just being okay with it and walking through the fear and walking through the fire and just trying it out for size, you get to see that they show up so much stronger. And they just, that is a form of love, essentially. They get to see that transaction, they get to see their worth, they get to say yes to themselves. But there is that other way, right? Is that, and Olivia touched on this a little bit ago before we got off on different tangents, was
all the tangents. And on that note, you were just on my podcast today talking more. So if you guys want more of that topic we were just riffing on about like, don't rob your client the experience of paying you, Autumn dropped so much golden nuggets about that specific topic over on the Soul in the Raw podcast, episode 94. Not trying to plug myself, literally trying to plug the fact that Autumn's a badass. And we talked about that for like an hour. So
it was so much fun. It was a really good call. So thank you for that. But the other thing, right, is if they are in your inbox, okay, well, I'm trying to take it back for a second and think, okay, they're in your inbox, they're asking this first question, what the heck do you do?
Yep.
So yes, you have this one option and you can say, you can go on to consultations. Right now I'm booking consultations, this works. Or something else that I do, and I know Olivia touched on this briefly, was if you have free resources, you have a free guide, you have a free community, you have a podcast, you have something, right? You have a YouTube list. Go and bring people over to that space. Let them know, hey, I do have free resources. My inbox coaching is actually reserved for my one-on-one clients. We can book a consultation, as I am taking on one-on-one clients right now, or maybe you're booking out a program, or maybe you're doing something else. Doesn't matter. You can bring them into that option, and I mean, I don't want to say sell yourself, but you can use that as an opportunity to serve them and to bring them into that opportunity where you can actually teach them what they need to know on a deeper level. Or you can say, if that doesn't feel like a good fit for you in this season, I actually have a free community. I have free resources in there. I have a freebie library. I have this guide. I have a podcast. Like, I have all these different things. So if you're not in a season where you want to invest, I completely honor that. And I get it. You know, you just maybe met me, or maybe we're starting to build a relationship. So here are some other resources. Here are some other ways to get to connect with me. And here's how you can actually grow and evolve and stretch in the space that you want to with what I already have. Or maybe you don't do any of those things. You can always connect them with somebody who you know does. But I think it's important that you do recognize your boundaries, you recognize what you need, and you give them the opportunity. If you do have a way that they can work with you, share it. But if you also have a way that they can connect with you on a low level for free, share that. That's a beautiful way of growing your community. If you have one that's free, of being able to say, hey, if you're not in a season of investing, I get that. Come into my group, come into my community. I do live videos in there for free. I do challenges. I have resources. I have links. I have guides. Like, I have a journal. Like, I have all this stuff you can get at lower levels until you're ready, maybe with more know, like, and trust to invest at that level at that time.
Yeah, I think too, it's knowing that, you need to have other places to send them, or I'll notice that I'll keep getting the same question and I'm like, oh, that's a beautiful question. I'm actually going to record a podcast on that. Thank you so much for the idea. I'll send it to you once it's recorded. And that way, that one question that most likely more people are having, you're able to serve at a bigger level by answering it in a live video, or answering it on a podcast, or in a YouTube video, or in a post, and then sending them that. So you're still serving them. It's just in a little bit different way, because I love the way you said that, Autumn. Like, inbox coaching, like messaging, is strictly for my one-on-one clients. I know both you and I have an assistant that we will be having her have like a template where it's sending like, hey, this is a great question. Olivia and Autumn, like, you know, their inbox is reserved for one-on-one clients. Here's your two options. 1, book a consultation. 2, you can check them out here, and giving them like one next space to go to get that question, or, you know, submitting that question almost to answer on a podcast. But keep your messages and like your responses super short too. Like, I know we both can be kind of ramblers in our inbox. So when we're giving people a bunch of options, I would say like stick to one, or give them like, you know, here's option 1 or 2, or just keep it super short, just a few sentences of just like responding to them. Or if the energy feels off, or if you're in a different space, just delete it. You don't owe anybody a response. They can think whatever they want. But I know my coach, like, she straight up just like blocks and sometimes deletes the person if they keep doing it. She's just like, I don't have time for this. And if I'm already frustrated, then we're probably not going to work together, because I'm frustrated by this energy and what's happening here, and I don't feel respected. And so I think you just, when you're the expert and you can love people in other ways, you don't need to prove how much you love someone by answering all of their messages. You are showing up every day to love them in your energy and in the way that you interact with them, the way that they feel with you, the way that they feel when they interact with your posts and your videos and your podcasts. So I guess those are like my kind of final 2 things, is like, if you're getting the same questions, find a FAQ, keep a log on a Google spreadsheet or something, and be able to send it to them. I know I have a Google spreadsheet with all of the podcast episodes we've ever recorded and the topics, so that someone asked me the other day, how did you become a coach? It's like episode 34 or something. Here you go. And I can send that to them. And then I'm reusing the same content I only created once, and I'm helping a lot of people, but I'm not feeling drained by it because it's already done.
No, 100%. And I think that you're just touching on it super quick for the network marketers is even if you are working with women and they've signed on for something with you, whether that's a month or for the year, and however you're selling that, that doesn't mean or necessarily include inbox coaching. Even though you are told to do all of the above and to do everything and to serve in that way, that does not mean that you have to do it. So if somebody is, say, and you had a really great point there, if somebody is sending you all these messages, even if they purchase a product from you, let's just say, because we've come from the health and wellness field, say they purchase a workout program from you, they're coming into your group, but instead of actually asking you asking inside of the group, instead of utilizing that space, and they're utilizing your inbox instead, because I have had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those messages. So exhausting. Utilize the fact that you can take it and turn it into a live video, whether it is in your group or it is on your Facebook. I think that that's really powerful, and I really want you guys to take that tangible tip away and recognize that you are not obligated and you do not have to answer every single message that comes in there. You do not have to answer every message about, what kind of recipe to use, how to, like so many of those weird questions that take up so much of your time, but they really don't serve anybody. And then in the long run, they're not saying thank you. They don't use them. And you feel depleted and you're like, I'm taking advantage of, I can't pay my bills and I'm so broke. Like, set up a boundary, figure out something that works for you. And I promise you that people will eventually get on board. They will figure it out. And you're going to have more time and you're going to actually add more value out into the world, because now you're taking these questions that so many people are asking you and thinking about and doing something with them and putting them in a space where multiple people can benefit from it, not just in your inbox.
That's so true. And I mean, I do that too. I know you and I have talked about this before when we're running a group training program. We can sit and answer Facebook messages all day from those people, but they're not paying for one-on-one coaching. So I'll just simply write them back a message like, this is a beautiful question. I love this so much. Do you mind sharing this in the group so that other people can benefit from it as well? And they're like, oh, I'm helping. Of course I will. And then they'll go post it in the group and I can answer it there. And then again, more eyes can see it versus just this one human that's taking up a lot of time and space in my inbox. So that was a really good point. And I think too, just be aware if someone buys a product from you once in network marketing, how much coaching does that get them? I know my verbiage was always, you buy it once and I'm your coach forever. Yeah. And I was like, oh God. And then now that I'm out of that space, I'm like, no. It's like, are you making money from this? Are you growing? Are they continuing to invest in themselves? That's where the coaching comes in. So do you need to reestablish some boundaries of people who bought something from you 3 years ago that are still blowing up your inbox?
Oh, 100%. Because we talked about this on your podcast that released today, was about, you have to assess like, okay, so they're paying maybe $160 for something, but your commission is maybe $40. So if you're making $40, you have to actually do the math here and say, if I'm making $40 and I'm coaching them for life, how much am I actually making per month from them? And how many clients do I need? How many customers do I need to make them the income that I want? Do I have space for that? Can I do that? If you don't, something needs to shift. You need more revenue streams. You need to have that be something that they invest in monthly. You have to shift something, because you're going to be depleted. They're not getting results and you're available for too much. And if you're holding this space for all of these women, this energetic space for all of these women who are not investing in you, they're not showing up, you cannot bring in more people. Like energetically, universally, you're just not going to be able to attract in more people because you're already holding all this space for these other women. There's only so much of you to go around. So
and it's okay to be the bitch sometimes. That's their perception. It doesn't actually make you a bitch. It's you just being a powerful person, you being the queen and standing tall in that. And your boundaries ultimately are protecting you and your energy and your soul and the work that you have to do here. You know, there's only one of you. So don't allow other people to deplete you and you be like, well, I'm just trying to like take care of everybody. And like, I don't want to be a bitch. Like, if that makes you a bitch, then be a bitch. But at the end of the day, that also isn't a bitch. If we know what boundaries are, we know that actually makes us a powerful person and we give permission to other people to do the same.
Well, and I was just going to say too, like, why does bitch have to be a disempowering word either? Like, this can be an empowering thing, right? Like, it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but at some point somebody probably called you a bitch and that made you feel less than. And this was just a different perception from before. And now you're like, I don't want to be this way. I don't want to come off this way. But can we redefine this? Like, can we redefine the perception on what a bitch is? Because I don't think that it has to be a bad thing. I think it can be powerful, and it's the way that you are essentially looking at it and receiving it. So let's dive into a little bit, like, why are bending these boundaries really keeping, so many women broke? I think maybe we've touched on this a little bit, is that you only have so much of you to go around. And I think these pings, right, that we're giving people in their inbox are essentially saying, well, you don't need to pay for it because I'm willing to give it to you here. So is there anything else, or do we kind of cover on why this is keeping so many women broke?
Yeah, I think that it kind of goes back to that whole idea of your energy becomes off, right? Like, people ultimately are attracted to your energy. That's why they hire you. That's why they take that next step with you. That's why they invest in themselves through your container. And when your energy is showing up like overwhelmed and burnt out and exhausted and depleted and like almost resentful, even though you love what you do, that energy is not something people want to be a part of. And I even know for me in network marketing, I prided myself on how quick I could get back to people's messages, even on date night, like on a Friday night at 9:30 p.m. I'm like eating dinner. We're at sushi and I'm like on my phone, and Joe's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, get off your phone. And I'm like, oh, this person like wants to buy a challenge pack. And no, it does not. I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. Because it just doesn't. Like, if that person is for you, you don't have to prove it to them by getting back to them within 5 seconds. Because what that actually does is that if you want this person to be a business builder, they don't want to be on their phone at 9:30 p.m. on a Friday night when they're eating sushi with their husband. So you have to be the client that you want to attract, right? You have to show them what this freedom business looks like. And if you're answering their message in the first 2 minutes that they send it, you're showing them that they need to be on their phone 24/7 answering messages 2 minutes when they get them, as well. And so if you want to attract business builders, if you want to make money, you need to show people what is possible. And it's not being glued to your phone, because nobody actually wants that life. We all start our businesses for freedom. So are you actually operating in integrity? Are you living in alignment? And are you living a life of freedom?
Well, and actually something very interesting on that is the other day I actually noticed that there were a couple influencers that I know, and they were at a conference for their network marketing company, and they were going live about, I don't know, a topic of some sorts. And one of the things that they had said in their live video is everybody's out partying and they're enjoying it and they're dancing and they're at all these things, but we're here doing the work. We're showing up. We're going live for you guys. We're in our hotel room. And I'm sitting here being like, but why aren't you going and enjoying it? Like, you're go party, go live it up. Like, go be you're not just your business. Like, go enjoy life. Like, that's what people are joining for, like your team for. They're joining because they want to come to a conference and enjoy it, right? They're coming because they want to travel and enjoy it. They're coming because they want more time with their family, with their husbands, with their spouses, with their kids. It's not because they want to run through depletion. So it was just interesting how that shows up again. It's how are you showing up in the world, and are you in integrity and in line essentially with what it is that your ideal client is wanting more of?
Yeah. And every now and again, there might be a message that seeps through that I'm like, you know what? I genuinely have the time. I really feel like I could respond to this right now, and I'll give them a couple sentences or something of advice. But check your energy. Like, is your energy depleted? Is your energy like, oh my God, people won't shut up in my inbox, and you're like angrily writing back to them? Because that energy is so different in what you're attracting and what that person feels. Because it's almost like, are you trying to prove something to them? Stop trying to prove it and just be that container, be that energy, hold space there. And that is what you obviously have to do work, like take action, do the work, have the free resources, all of these things. But that is what people are drawn to. I hired my coach because she absolutely lives a life that she portrays on social media. It's obvious in her energy. It's obvious in how she shows up. And I was like, that is what I want. Other people that I have wanted to hire, maybe there's been times where I'm like, something feels off here energetically. I'm feeling like this tired and exhaustion and this depleted feeling, and I don't want a life like that. So why would I hire someone that has that life? Not that I don't love that person, not that I don't love these people, but I want to hire someone. I want to work with someone who has the life that I want, not just the business.
Yes, preach it. Preach it. Yes.
You little black ducklings, you.
I'm obsessed. Oh my God. Now I need to change the podcast and I just need to like put a little black duckling on it. And that's just,
oh my God, you
photo,
have
right?
to. That's like what your wipers are going to be, like this little black duckling.
My little black ducklings. But okay, so let's talk this. Okay, let's talk about this conversation. Let's riff on this for a little bit, because I know that on a deeper level, there's something going on. Like if you feel obligated to respond to all of these messages, on a deeper level, something else is happening. So I think that part of the reason, or the way to effectively and efficiently and successfully move forward and establish strong boundaries, and to be able to ask for the sale, ask for the consult, send them to your free resources, whatever that looks like, you have to, on a deeper level, have understood why you're giving things away for free. You have to understand why you feel obligated to answer every message. And I think that when you understand that, you can find confidence within yourself as well to say, I'm actually an expert and I should be paid for this. Mm-hmm. So from your experience, like, what do you think it comes down to on a deeper level if you feel obligated?
Ooh, well, I think the whole prove it thing is there. I think it's like almost this, we have to grind until we're worthy of it.
Yeah.
And so it's like, you know, how can I overgive so that one day I can charge? And here's the thing. I didn't make money for a while in my business when I first started. And even I had built a lucrative business in network marketing, and then I left and I started from the ground up again. And there were months where I wasn't making any money, and, you know, and I was doing the things that I'm preaching now, but it hits this turning point. It's like this, my coach explained it to me as, and it totally happened. It was so nuts, but it was like this, like waterfall that like, it was building all this pressure. And then all of a sudden it was like gush. And then all of a sudden there's everything that I've ever wanted. But it was like this work I was doing leading up to it. And I was starting to establish deeper boundaries and show up stronger in certain areas rather than trying to be everywhere and all these different things, which is a whole nother podcast for another time. But I definitely think like sometimes it comes down to, for me at least, it was trying to prove that I was worthy of them taking that next step. And for me, it was like I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel expert enough. I didn't feel credible enough. And I was seeing what everyone else was doing. So I was like, oh, I need to be doing that. Like if this coach is doing free consults, I should be doing free consults, rather than looking for, you know, how am I different? What am I feeling called to do? And are there coaches out there who are charging for their consults? And I want to model that business model. So I think the worthiness, the proving it, and the not good enough was big for me.
Yeah, those, and I think that even the first one, like I just jotted some down while you're saying that, because things were just coming up for me. But I definitely think that the worthiness in the fact of I'm looking for love and attention. Like I'm looking for, because as I respond, they get good feedback. They're like, oh, thank you so much. You get this ping, right? Like you get this ping of like, oh, I'm being loved. I'm getting attention. I'm getting people that care, and I can post that. I have all these messages and stuff to respond to. And I think that that's where you have to a little check yourself and say, well, are you getting the ping? Like, are you getting that like little dose of what you need to feel good enough to move forward? And so there's like this looking for love. It's a self-worth disconnect. I think it comes down to like this fear of, well, maybe at one point you've let somebody down by not doing what was expected of you. And you have this fear of letting people down. And that again, like, you're not worth it if you don't overgive, or you're not going to be loved if you don't overgive. So coming back to the self-worth thing, or even coming down to like this whole perception of working hard, that you're only successful if you work really, really hard, and you're only going to make money if you work really, really hard, and you're only going to, and it's so ass backwards, right? It's so ass backwards because we wait for a certain level of income to then feel like, okay, now I can charge for my services. Now I can charge for my time and my energy, my expertise. Now I can actually put a price tag on this and I can set up boundaries. But here's the thing, you guys, is that you have to set up boundaries and you have to set up prices and you have to establish your expertise and stand really strong in that to make the money you want. It's not going to be the other way around. You can't expect to give everything away for free and to be, you know, this person that's always available for Betty to pick, you know, at your brain to pop all those the pimple popper. You can't be available for all that and then think you're going to make the money you want. You have to do it the other way around. People are never going to one day just say, I really want to pay you. Like Betty's never going to say, can I actually pay you for that advice you gave me? Like you just gave me some clear advice. Here, what's your PayPal? I'm going to drop you $1,000. It's not going to happen. So if you want that money,
it's like a donate button. Here, right? If you love what you've gotten here, can you donate to my cause?
Yeah. It's not going to happen. happen that way. You have to show up in like really strong. You have to know what you're worth, and you have to start asking for it even when it scares you a little bit.
Yeah.
So then you can receive that love, and you can receive in the way that feels good for you and a way that benefits them as well. And then that way you're going to get to the money that you want, the income level you want. It's not going to happen the other way around. As much as we want to convince ourselves of it, it's not, it's no. I don't see any place where that's possible.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that that's freaking spot on. And it's not like, what are you trying to prove? Like, you don't have to prove anything. You're worthy simply because you are. You wouldn't be called to it if it wasn't for you. And it doesn't have to be this starving artist, this struggling artist mentality. That's a bunch of bullshit that's out there. It doesn't have to be that way. You know, again, there were months where I didn't make money. There were some times where I felt like I was giving extra and I wasn't bringing home that same thing in return. But I also had to make sure like my boundaries were on point and all these other things were in place to then step into this space where I was, you know, not worthy, but I was ready to receive the level of success that I was stepping into.
Ready. That's a good word. So do we have any last like tips? Do we have any last piece of advice to ninja kick these brain pickers?
Ninja kick
these brain pickers away. Yeah, and just like to be like become unavailable for it. Like, do we have any last piece of advice? Or I mean, I think probably for me it'd be like, I want you to figure out why you feel obligated. I think the first piece of any puzzle, if something's not working, is to figure out why you are showing up the way that you are, to why you're being available for it, why you feel accepted and loved and lit up in that way to begin with, and what you're getting from it. And then to see, is it still serving me? And if it's not, well, then what are the solutions? How can I move forward? And what are the new truths that I want to believe? What do I want to stand in now at this point so then I can actually get to the place that I want to go? What actions and what beliefs need to support where I'm going? I think a lot of journal work, a lot of self-reflection is probably a really good first step.
Yep. I think that's a beautiful first step. I also think I'm going to give you some real talk, peeps, it's a truth bomb that might sting a little bit, but it's one that I needed to hear as well at one point. And that is, if this is happening to you, it's because you're allowing it to happen to you. We have to stop putting the blame on, why are all these people trying to pick my brain, and why am I broke, and why is this happening, and oh my God, and it's everybody else's fault. It's not. There's something going on with you, and you're allowing it. We teach people how to treat us, and I get it. I was there. I had gotten myself to this space, and I felt like I was so far in this hole that I couldn't dig my way out. But here's your reminder that you can. You have to take your power back, and you have to determine what you are and are not available for. Figure out these deeper meanings, like Autumn said as well, and then do it differently. People aren't just going to randomly be like, oh, okay, I'm not going to message her that. It's you standing firm in it, setting the boundaries, but then actually following through with them and realizing, asking yourself the tough question, you know, a couple times a month or something, you know, am I honoring my boundaries? Am I following through? Am I teaching people to treat me the way that I want to be treated? And if I'm not, then where am I disconnected here? Where am I out of alignment, and what needs to shift to get me back there?
That's so good. That's so good. You have because it does come down to the tough love. Like it does. You have to gut check yourself. You have to be real with yourself, and you have to start doing the hard shit. And that means asking for the sale, asking, you know, setting up the boundaries, saying you're not available for it, pointing them to your free resources, doing whatever it is that you got to do. But you have to check in with yourself. Does this feel good? It doesn't feel good, then take some action, right? Do something. So then you do teach people the way that you want to be treated. I think that I love that you said that. Teach people the way that you want to be treated, because we do. We set the boundaries. We show up the way we want people to show up for us. And if you want it to look different, you have to start doing it differently. And that's not something that we can wait for anyone else to do. So this is so freaking good. So good. What an amazing way to end this off. So Olivia, where else can people find you?
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty much everywhere. OliviaSeline.com houses everything. But my favorite place to hang out these days is Instagram, Olivia Seline. I mean, I'm on Facebook too, and I'm there, and I show up, and I do my lives there. But I definitely love the gram. I dig Instagram stories. Starting to dig into it more. So Black Ducklings, come hang out with me on the gram.
Hashtag Black Ducklings. She'll know exactly where you found her.
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much. We hope that you guys go and ninja kick the shit out of these brain pickers. Betty, there's no more room for Betty.
Betty, we love you, but Betty, you got to go home. Girl.
You got to go home.
Get your life together.
Well, we hope you love this episode. We hope that you found a lot of value in it. We hope that this gave you just a little ping of confidence and recognition and reminder that you can choose. You don't need the validation. You don't need the permission from anyone else other than yourself to just go and show people how you want to be treated and just be unavailable for all that other shit. So amazing. Yay. Well, we hope that you love this episode. And if you do, make sure that you share it on Instagram, tag us in it, let us see that you're loving it, tag Olivia, tag me, so then we can share it and also recognize you guys for loving the podcast. We love to just build that community and shout out our girl gang out there, our little black ducklings.
So ridiculous.
So ridiculous. So anyways, you guys, we love you. We appreciate you listening, and we hope that you have an incredible day. So we will see you on the next episode. Bye. Woo!